Monster Hunter is a fantastic franchise where you go out as hunters and fight these gigantic beasts, these massive monsters that threaten the very way of nature, that threaten the ecosystem, or even just threaten certain villages and lifestyles. This game has been around for many years, and I think it would work very well as a VR title. I think Monster Hunter, Capcom themselves actually agree to this because they've actually done a VR version of Monster Hunter before in the past. There was this like weird expo thing that they did or whatever, where they got some people and put them in a warehouse, and it was like this guided VR tour thing. It was pretty interesting to look at and stuff like that. If I can find a link to it, I guess I'd link it in the description or something like that. But today I want to talk about my own unique concept for a Monster Hunter VR game. This I would like to simply call Monster Hunter Village Researcher. Now, you could play with the name a little bit because Village Researcher is just so that you can put VR in there in big letters, but you could technically replace Village or Villager with the name of the village itself. For example, if you want to name the village Valor Village or something like that, you could call it Valor Researcher or something like that, right? The concept of this game is that you're going to take on the role of a researcher of the village. Now, it sounds kind of lame when you put it that way, but I kind of want to talk about all the gameplay and then talk about the story elements, and then after I give you essentially my pitch for a Monster Hunter VR title, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. So let's start with the gameplay, because obviously that's going to be the thing that people love the most about this game, right? Because gameplay is everything. I think this gameplay would be very stealthy, but there's a lot of other elements to it as well, because you're going to take on the role of a researcher who is not a hunter or anything like that. So your goal in this game is to go out on these different expeditions and collect things like footprints, scratch marks, various monster signs, dung, all these different things like that, maybe even certain plants and other like endemic life and whatnot, so that you can upgrade your own equipment. Maybe you get your own set of armor or something like that and you can upgrade it. You're also going to be out there collecting flash pods and all these other things like that, because your goal is to kind of stay away from the monsters. You want to get close to them so you can get points, maybe even screenshot them, not screenshot them necessarily, but take pictures of them and stuff like that. It's going to be a very Pokemon Snap-esque kind of game here, with some very stealthy elements, maybe even a little bit of horror elements, because there definitely would be lots of jump scares from monsters just jumping out at you and trying to attack you and stuff like that. So you're basically going to be stealthing around, sneaking around monsters, using flash pods, dung pods, and the environment and endemic life to keep monsters away while you continue to do your research, collecting footprints and all that other stuff. At random times, maybe during certain hunts or certain expeditions, I'm sorry, it can't be called hunts because that's weird because you're a researcher, but on certain expeditions or whatever else like that, you could be accompanied by an NPC hunter. Is going to help you because there's a monster in the area that's a little bit too dangerous for you to deal with, so maybe they'll come up there and they can kind of take care of the monster. Maybe you can watch them a little bit while you're collecting other resources and stuff like that, and this would help you get unique monster info, because the hunter is going to do stuff with the monster that you could never do. Obviously, like I said before, you're going to be collecting a lot of different materials and stuff like that, so you're going to be learning all kinds of crafting recipes for stuff like flares, which could send in an NPC hunter to help you after like 60 or 30 seconds after you send up the flare. Maybe it comes and it fights the monster for you a little bit, because this could be like an emergency, like I need to get out of here, I'm in trouble kind of situation, and it comes and it fights it, and then shortly after the fight, maybe like 30 seconds of its fight, you just get sent out of there or something like that. As well, you could craft traps and stuff like that to trap certain monsters. I think they could do a very unique and interesting thing here where you can kind of almost poison dart the monster enough times or something, and it would kind of fall asleep, or something would happen to it where it's weak enough where it would actually be capturable by traps or something. Or alternatively, you could just trap some of the smaller monsters like the smaller Jaggeris and stuff like that. Also, you're out here collecting snares and stuff like that, because again, this wouldn't necessarily trap the monster per se. Very similar to how in Sunbreak, where your palicos can kind of do those wire bugs on them and hold them in place and stuff like that. This could be something that you can do in this game, but you're attaching it to like a tree or a big rock or something, and so it struggles to escape it for a little bit, and that gives you a chance to escape and stuff like that. Obviously, other things you're going to be collecting, maybe something like slings or something, where you can get like a slingshot type thing where you can throw different pellets and rocks and stuff at the monsters and stuff, maybe even daggers or something. I think that could be very fun. Obviously, I mentioned this earlier, but you're going to be taking pictures of the monsters and other things that you see in that little region that you're investigating in, that little region that you're on your expedition at. Again, very similar to Pokemon Snap, obviously with far more danger because these monsters can actually come and kill you. But yeah, you'll uncover unique lore for the Monster Hunter world. I think that's very interesting in of itself because a lot of fans obviously are interested in monster lore. Why does this monster act this way? Why does this monster hate this monster? What does this monster eat? Like, what do the insides of this monster look like? How does it summon fire breath? Like, how does it do this lightning stuff? All these different things that we've never learned before about monsters, even the tiniest little things, maybe we can finally learn in this game. That could be a fun little thing by itself. Obviously, you're gonna be chased by monsters in certain sections of this game, and you have to try and escape that. I think another really fun thing about this too is that you could actually dissect monsters. Maybe hunters kill a monster and they bring it back, and you can bargain your way into getting the entire corpse rather than it getting sent to like the chefs or whatever else like that to get cut up and eaten and stuff. And maybe then you get to dissect it a little bit and learn more about the monster parts inside that as well. I can see why that might be a little bit gross. That's why it's a little bit lower down here on my pitch. But maybe there's other sections too where there's like siege type elements, kind of similar to how we've had with Monster Hunter World, where the giant monster is attacking and stuff like that, and you have to shoot it with cannons and all this other stuff. I think it could be really fun if you get to man your own cannon or any of that other stuff and shoot at this big monster or something. I think that could be a really another really fun element to it. And yeah, you would also obviously head out on expeditions with friends, so you could have a multiplayer aspect to this where you can have other friend researchers come in and you could do researches together and stuff like that. Another fun thing is that you could trigger turf wars between certain monsters or trigger just basic fights between different monsters and stuff like that, and obviously you would learn something about monsters by doing that and all this other stuff. And also, watching giant monsters fight each other has always been a fun part of Monster Hunter. But these are all the gameplay elements that I've written down here in my notes. I'm going to talk a little bit about the story and then my overall thoughts on this. So here, the story, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, but the story is that you take on the role of a researcher new to the village. You become the driving force in discovering why a certain monster disappeared and how to return balance to nature with it or without it there. So basically, a monster goes missing. We could say something like Devil Joe or something like that. It goes missing, and the environment is starting to slightly suffer because of it. Monsters are acting extremely different than they've ever acted before. A lot of weird stuff is happening with monsters because this one monster has gone missing. We don't know why. We need these researchers to go out and find out why this monster disappeared, and if we can salvage this section of nature without it there. Or, alternatively, maybe you can find out where they went and find a way to bring them back there. So that's kind of the main story. That's the plot of the entire story. In some parts of the story, however, though, you'll blur the line between hunter and researcher as you are left no choice but to learn the ways, learn unique and interesting ways to protect others. So, for example, in one story beat, you could have a set of monsters headed towards your village or something like that, and all the hunters are like gone. They're on a mission or something like that. They're elsewhere. Maybe there's one on his way or something, but there needs to be someone to act right now. And since you, throughout the story, has had somewhat of experience already dealing with monsters, and you've already fought, you've already watched the hunters fight monsters with your own eyes, you kind of know somewhat what to do. And so you go in there with your slingshot and some flash pods and all this other stuff, and you go and you save these people about to be, destroyed by this monster or something like that. That's obviously a very interesting thing that they can do, where they slowly blur the line between researcher and hunter, where I think the ultimate end of the game, the end of the story, would probably be that you ultimately become a hunter or something like that. Or maybe you just turn it down and just continue to stay a researcher or something. But yeah, I think this version of the game would be way more story-driven than something like Rise or War, or really just most Monster Hunter games, because I feel like this would definitely be a Monster Hunter spin-off game. Like, it would be more of a spin-off. It wouldn't be like part of the main series or anything like that. But I would definitely love to see this happen, because it just, come on, giant monsters in VR, sneaking around, throwing flash pods at them, hitting them with slingshots and stuff like that. That would be really cool. Now, the reason why it's set up like this, the reason why my pitch is set up like this rather than just you're a hunter, you go and you hit them with these big sticks, these big swords, or whatever else like that, is because that can get very nauseating extremely quickly, and it will turn a lot of people away, I think, just on that alone. A lot of people would see a Monster Hunter title, and that you're actually going to go out and you're going to hunt, you're going to be doing backflips with an insect glaive or something like that, and people are going to be like, I don't know if I can handle that, and they're not going to try it. I think if you did something like this, it's a lot more tame, and there's exploration elements to it. It's similar to Pokemon Snap. You can have a lot of awesome elements to it there just all together, and I think it just makes it a lot better and a lot more easy to digest, a lot easier for someone who's maybe not a fan of Monster Hunter to see this game and be like, that actually looks really cool, and then they hop in there and find out for themselves if it's actually really cool. But let me know what you guys think of this Monster Hunter pitch in the comments below. Let me know if you want any other of these hypothetical VR games for a video, because I have other ideas for other flat 2D games or whatever for VR. So let me know in the comments below for all of that, and also let me know how much you enjoyed this video in general, because I'd very much appreciate a like, a subscription to this channel, maybe even sharing this video around or the channel around. I would very much appreciate all of that, very, very, very much. But yeah, do all those things, and remember, most importantly, to stay asleep.